We are in this straight out of Matthew, the last day, Matthew 28. I don't want to spoil it, but, Jesus kind of conquers death out of it. And we're so excited to be able to do this. And I was looking at it, we went through 28 chapters, 23,343 words in the book of Matthew. That's 3% of our Bible as well. There was over 100 people that walked through this journey. It just blew our mind that we're so excited about that. And then we even had like 4 weekly Thursday morning devotionals. I got up really early, and a bunch of people did as well. And we had about 300 views over the 4 weeks of people going through those real-time devotionals, half an hour, and there was about around 1,000 comments and stories and testimonies over these 28 days. And just wow. And so we kind of shared internally that we're planning on doing another one. It won't be probably until like springtime that we're going to do another book of the Bible, and you'll hear more about that as we get going. But there's some other news afterwards about what's happening coming Easter. I don't want to say too much, but we're going to let that go to Jesse and them to talk about that. But I want to get into this last message for our Straight Out of Matthew series. And so in the chat rooms, whatever platform you're on, I would love for you to write down the message today, which I think is very fitting in 2021, in COVID, in CERB, and all that. And the message title is called Living Broke. Okay, living broke. Put that in the chat room. You don't have to put exclamation marks beside it if you feel like that's what you're living right now. But I'm sure there are many in there that are in the different rooms and you're watching right now. You can attest that this whole last year and a bit has been just a challenge to try and figure things out, whether it's finances or just the care for different things, or God bless all the parents that have turned into like educators. I think that's just fantastic. But anyways, it's been a tough time. So the message titled Living Broke. Okay, and so the message is found in Matthew chapter 26. Matthew chapter 26. We had, this is the first time you're watching in this series, every week we took a message. My message came out of the 7 chapters of that. So 1 to 7, 8 to 14, 15 to 21. And then now we're 22 to 28. So here this message is found in chapter 26, verses 6 to 10. The words will be on the screen. I always love when you have your own Bible. If you do not have a physical Bible and want one, contact us here at the office, because we'd love to put a Bible in your hands. We'll find a way to get it to you, because I think it's awesome. I just grabbed a new Bible to go through it fresh again. And so here we are, Matthew chapter 26, verse 6 to 10, let's dig in here. It says, verse 6 says, while Jesus was in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, which I just have to say, I don't want to be like, when we get to heaven, which one's Simon the leper? I just feel bad for the guy. But anyways, Simon the leper, a woman approached him with an alabaster jar full of very expensive perfume. She poured it on his head as he was reclining at the table. When the disciples saw it, they were indignant. Why this waste? They asked. This might have been sold for a great deal and given to the poor. Aware of this, Jesus said to them, why are you bothering this woman? She has done a noble thing for me. What would you do if you had less than a week to live? What would you do? What would be on your bucket list if all of a sudden you were told, hey, you've got less than a week to live? What would you do? I don't know what I would do, but I know it would have to be in Canada. Or I could go somewhere, I guess, and because I won't be worrying about quarantining afterwards or being, brought off to some hotel somewhere in Upper Rubber Boot. But anyways, the fact is that I don't know what I would do in those last few days that I knew I was living. Here we have Jesus at a meal at the house of Simon the leper, having a dinner for his buddy Lazarus, hanging out, having dinner for Lazarus. You may not have seen it there, but it's actually written, this account is written in 3 of the 4 Gospels here, and we see here that he's having dinner there. And Martha is catering The disciples are hanging out, and then it says that a woman approached Jesus with a bottle of perfume. Actually, Mark 14 says that she took that bottle and she broke the jar open and poured it over his head as he sat. And John, in his account, actually says that it didn't only go on his head, she actually poured it on his feet as well and wiped his feet with her hair. And it says that the room was filled with a beautiful aroma. Just so you want to know, even though different accounts have different translations of who or mentions this woman, we know who the woman is. So John actually mentions who the woman is, and Matthew knows who the woman is because Matthew was actually present at that meal. But for whatever reason, Matthew chose not to mention her name. Maybe because he wanted it not to be just about a woman specifically, but just the act of worship itself. I'm not really sure. I don't know Matthew well, and maybe some of you do, but Matthew doesn't mention it here. It was somebody, actually, who was very used to being at Jesus' feet. Ironically, she was used to being at Jesus' feet while her sister was busy in the kitchen catering. It was Mary. Not Mary Magdalene, not Mary, Jesus' mother, but Mary, Lazarus' sister, at Lazarus' supper. So why was she pouring this oil, this expensive oil, from a broken, beautiful jar on Jesus? Well, let's take a look. John chapter 11 says this: as soon as Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and told him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died." When Jesus saw her crying and the Jews who had come with her crying, he was deeply moved in his spirit and troubled. "Where have you put him?" he asked. "Lord," they told him, "come and see." Jesus wept. The shortest verse in the entire Bible. Jesus wept. He was deeply moved, and if you go on to read in John chapter 11, he goes and he raises Lazarus from the dead. Now they're having a dinner for Lazarus. And now Mary, instead of coming to Jesus' feet, wondering why he didn't show up, Mary's now at Jesus' feet, thanking him, anointing him, honoring him. She came to his feet for a different reason. Let me ask you, when was the last time you didn't worry about your worship? When was the last time that you didn't care if anybody else was noticing what was going on? You know, we see in 1 Samuel, we see where David, when the ark comes back into Jerusalem, and David is dancing, and David's wife is so kind of perturbed and upset and embarrassed because he's dancing around like a fool, and he says, "Look, this isn't for you. This is for the Lord, and I would even become more undignified than this." We see the worship of the disciples, up in the upper room in Acts. We see this whole story here. Mary here worshiping. When was the last time you didn't worry about it? I probably shouldn't be saying this, but our son Adam and Chrissy, they live in our house, and they live in the basement. We have a basement suite down there, and so one morning Adam was here because we're only here with only limited people that need to put on the service, and so Adam was here. Chrissy was downstairs, part of the service. Carrie was upstairs, part of the service, and Chrissy heard this noise and didn't know what it was, and so she turned her volume off. And it was Carrie worshiping. And I just love hearing that story because we shouldn't worry about our worship. It's not for the people around us. It's for him. You see, to Mary in this moment, there was only two people in the room. Mary didn't care. Mary didn't care at all. And you'll see why I'm saying that in a moment, but she was there alone in her mind with Jesus. Can I just tell you that, in my opinion, that's what true worship is? Worship is not trying to cater to the people around you. Worship is not trying to, help this one, be cater to this person or cater to that. Worship is about Jesus. You can put that in the chat room if you want there. Worship is about Jesus, not about you. That's what true worship is. Oh, okay, yeah. But even though she felt maybe she was alone in the room with Jesus, she wasn't. Nope. The room had Jesus' posse, what I like to call the pouting Peter and the sour 11. Yeah, pouting Peter and the sour 11, and probably others in that room at that time, and they were miffed. They were perturbed. Actually, the Bible says they were indignant. Whew. That's like a Mufasa word, indignant. That's a big word. That is like so mad. The only time there's only a few times that we see the word indignant, and it's used with Jesus when one of the few times we see Jesus indignant, and that's when the disciples were stopping the children from coming to Jesus, and now these disciples feel they can be just as mad that someone actually is worshiping Jesus. Indignant. It's the same word. Have you ever been over mad? You know what I mean? Like, have you ever been over mad? Like, you get so heated. Maybe it's just like the straw that breaks the camel's back, and whatever it is, and maybe you've never experienced that. Maybe you right now, you've never experienced that. But if you have experienced ever being over mad, then just put that, I have been. Okay, just put that in the chat room. I have been, because I'm putting it in there. I have been over mad. And if you want to know what I mean by over mad, it's this. Have you ever been madder than the matter? Have you ever been madder than the matter? And here we have the disciples, and they are furious. They are blowing their lid. They have redlined. They don't have engines back there. But imagine, they have redlined. They are just so angry right now with what they're seeing. The atrocity of this woman, it just tipped the scales. They were furious. That jar, if you had looked at it based on the other accounts, it would, in today's terms, basically be a jar of perfume that would be worth $33,000. That bottle ain't no Gucci bottle. It ain't no, I don't know, whatever name brand you want, Prada. I don't know. I'm not into that and this name stuff. But it is $33,000 for that jar of perfume. And they say, man, you could have sold that and given it to the poor. They're furious. Sounds good. Sounds well-intentioned. Here's the thing, though. Jesus was in the room where it happened. Jesus was there too, and we're not really sure why they were doing it. Maybe they were trying to impress him. Maybe based on last week's message, maybe they were trying to impress him to try and move back up that pecking order, and you can listen to last week's message about that. But it says that Jesus is aware of what they're saying. Can I just tell you this morning that Jesus is always aware of what you're saying? Jesus is always aware. He's aware of all of your, well, he shoulda, or she shoulda, or they shoulda, or if I was in charge, or if, you know what, if you let me take care of it, or God would move if only. Jesus is aware of all those conversations. Put this in the chat room. Backseat drivers never get in accidents. Backseat drivers never get in accidents, because the moment that you get in an accident while you're driving, they say, well, you shouldn't have done that. You should have done this. You should have done, oh my goodness. Are we ever good at shoulda, coulda, woulda? You know, that's one of my actual fears about COVID. I'm not afraid of, the virus, and the virus exists, and people are, we're losing lives, and we're doing the best that we can, and we're trying to cope around this thing, and that's just the way it is. I'm not afraid of that. What I'm a little concerned about is actually what will happen once it's under control, once we found a way to get around it, once we're trying to find normalcy again. That's when I'm kind of concerned, because that's when everyone will say, oh, well, we should have done this. We should have done that. We've probably heard that for the last 14 months. Well, we should have done this and should have done that. You know what? That's what I'm afraid of. Because I just want to tell you, as a pastor, as a leader, as a community person, that all of the highways of tradition are shut down right now. Every road is shut down. We cannot rely on how we used to do whatever. Every leader, every church, every person that has to make decisions is driving blind. The lights are off, and we are just driving, hoping we're not going to crash into something. And so, in my honest opinion, I think it would be great to just thank those in the chat room, thank our government officials. You may not agree with everything that they say, but you know what? Don't even worry about that, because I don't even agree with myself half the time too. You know what? Don't worry about that. They're doing the best that they can. Parents, you're doing the best that you can. Right now you're so fixated on the I'm not doing this right, I'm not doing this right, and how did they learn math this way? I never learned math that way, and you have to somehow teach it. You know what? You're doing the best that you can. Churches are doing the best they can. We're all doing the best that we can. So I just think it would be great for you just to say a great thank you to anybody who right now that's just trying to do the best driving in the dark. Anyways, let's get back to the text. It says that Jesus is aware of this issue. Because I want to read what happens, because I'm not really sure you caught it. I'm not sure you may have noticed what actually happens here. It says in verse 8 that when the disciples saw it, they were indignant. Why this waste, they asked. This might have been sold for a great deal and given to the poor. Aware of this, Jesus said to them, why are you bothering this woman? She has done a noble thing. Let me circle again. Did you catch it? Aware of this, Jesus said to them, why are you bothering this woman? She has done a noble thing for me. Why are you bothering this woman? Did you know that? When you pictured the story in your mind, is that the version that you saw? Because that's actually the version expressed here. What? They aren't complaining to one another? No. They're not bringing it up as some sort of topic to Jesus and saying, Jesus, maybe like this person shouldn't. No. They're taking it out on her. They're taking it out on her, and actually taking it out on her in the middle of the act. They were deworthing her worship. They were deworthing her worship. Whoa. It gets worse. They did it while they were just sitting there. Just sitting there, deworthing someone else's worship. I want to ask you, who are we to judge someone else's worship? Who are we to step up and point fingers at how someone tells God how grateful they are? You know, in Psalm 150, it says, let everything that has breath praise the Lord. It doesn't say, let everything that has breath praise the Lord a certain way. It doesn't say, here are the 17 ways that you're allowed to worship, and here's the 14 postures that you can have, and here's the verses, and you can clap, or you can have instruments, or you can't have instruments, or you can raise your voice, or you can keep quiet, you can meditate, you can scream. No. Worship is that individual expression of what is no longer containable within. So how it explodes, that's up to you. Actually, in Isaiah chapter 1, Isaiah says that God said to the people, stop bringing me worthless offerings that don't mean anything. Here's the painful thing about what we see in the disciples, is the disciples were criticizing something that cost them nothing. They were criticizing the act of worship of someone with something that cost them as individuals nothing. It wasn't their $33,000 bottle of perfume. It wasn't their alabaster jar that, by the way, when you read the other accounts, Mary didn't just open it and pour it on his head and his feet. She had to break it. She had to break open the jar. She had to make the jar now unusable to be able to access what was inside. I'd love you to put this in the chat room right now. Don't let worthless words wear down your worship. Don't let worthless words wear down your worship. Last time I checked, when you're worshiping God, it's not about entertaining someone else. It wasn't for them, it's for God. You see, worshiping God, not just singing. No. Any form of worship. Worshiping God. True worship is going to cost you. True worship is going to cost you. And dare I say that true worship to God should cost you everything. Everything, because not that he demands you to give him everything, but everything you have could never even come close to everything he is and everything he can be and has been in your life. Nothing you have will ever be worth everything he is. You can put that in the chat room. Nothing you have will ever be worth everything he is. Can I caution you? Maybe you who are married today, you know what I'm talking about. Maybe those of you who have been in a relationship with someone, maybe some of you right now, you're looking forward or looking to the next relationship or wondering about the next relationship. Maybe the hurts of former relationships are really making you second guess whether or not you want to get involved in one again. But I want to caution you that true love will break you. True love will break you. It will break your pride. There will be times where it breaks your heart. It will break down your walls. True love will break you. John chapter 11, verse 35, when Mary, broken, comes at his feet, Jesus was broken. Jesus wept. Maybe, I wonder, when we look at this story, could there be a different reason why also Jesus stood up for Mary? Could there be another reason why Jesus chose to commend what she was doing, who broke the jar to anoint him? Because maybe Jesus knew that in order to truly love and in order to truly live, Jesus knew that it would come with a breaking. Jesus knew that it would come with a breaking. You see, we're here, as I said, this took place at Lazarus, or at Simon the leper's home, and it was focused on Lazarus. And this meal was centering around a broken jar. But then 6 days later, another meal was coming. A meal that was going to be coming where Jesus once again was going to experience something broken. It was going to be broken bread. It was going to be him sharing that broken bread was going to be his broken body. it was going to be that, just like that jar, that alabaster jar that had such priceless ointment inside, perfume that would fill the room, that in the brokenness of his body, a week later, there would be another spilling of another liquid that was priceless. That was his blood. I think that perhaps we isolate the story of Jesus and isolate the story of Mary and don't realize that they actually are connected. What she did when he said is foretelling my burial, preparing me for my burial, preparing me for another brokenness. It's coming a week later. You see, communion is that acknowledgement that we need to live and love broken. To live broken. To love broken. To love God for what he has done and be thankful for his brokenness that has given us life. That here's the irony, is that in his brokenness we are made whole. And in our breaking, in the breaking of our pride, in the breaking of our own judgment, in the breaking of our own looking down on others, when we allow that to break, then we can finally be like Jesus, who came and died for each and one of us.